Yeah, did some good numbers though on the downloads.
Yeah.
Defending champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
Fucking number one.
You win.
Number one, Danny Batten, number one. Hey guys, welcome to episode number 9 of the Danny Batten MMA show, only on Ace Podcast Nation. I am your host, Sai. Here at Ace Podcast Nation, we got podcasts and interviews and content on all sorts of subjects: football, MMA, wrestling, films, TV, music, and much, much more. We have our live football show every Monday, 7 p.m. It's live on Facebook and YouTube, as well as produced on audio at all the usual podcasting places. The day after is the Andy Campbell Championship Show, where myself and former Premier League and Championship striker Andy Campbell break down the weekend's action from the Championship, as well as talk about all the biggest stories from the footballing world. Last week, I recorded a show with MMA medic and stand-up comic, Mr. Barry Phillips, who's very popular, particularly in Wales, with all the Welsh MMA fighters. So I know they're anticipating that show a lot, which that'll be out on Friday. Last Friday, I had the first episode of my new series, which is My Story, which is where I speak to people from sport and other careers about their career and go through it, and they share memories and anecdotes as we go through their story from their upbringing right up to present day. The first episode was dropped last Friday, was with a former international cricketer and England's test player, one-day international 2020. I'm not sure if he played 2020 actually for England. Is Mr. Chris Lewis, which was a very interesting show. He's a very charismatic guy, and obviously he's been through a lot in his story, both on and off the pitch. Today's show brought to you by Away Day Apparel. Away Day Apparel is a group of casually obsessed football fans looking to bring something different to the wardrobes of like-minded people. Please visit their website, awayDayApparel.co.uk, and I highly recommend giving them a follow on Twitter at AwayDayApparel and Instagram at AwayDay_apparel. 2020 is looking very interesting for the brand, and I know they've got some Euro 2020 stuff coming out. I know that they have had some interesting news over the last couple of days, so keep your eyes on their brand and their products. And also, if you go to their Instagram or Twitter page and give them a follow, you'll be able to keep up to date with what's coming. And like I say, there's some exciting stuff coming up. And especially for Ace Podcast Nation viewers and listeners, you can get 10% off all orders with Away Day Apparel by using the code AA Podcast Nation, all in lowercase, and you'll get 10% off if you use that code at the checkout. Okay, so tonight, Danny Batten MMA show. We're talking UFC Norfolk and doing our predictions for UFC 248, I think it is. And joining me to discuss all of that is former Cage Warriors champion, UK MMA legend, Mr. Danny Batten. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
Hello, Si. You all right, buddy?
I'm all right, mate. It's going to be a lot shorter than last week. I know that much.
Oh, yeah.
I know
I welcome
that much.
As much as I love talking about it all, I do welcome a nice shorter one. Why not?
Yeah, that was a bit brutal for us, but it was fun. It was
Absolutely.
was long because obviously we had the boxing, and then we had the UFC, and then we had the Bellator events. I don't think it was helped like by Bellator having something like 3 events in 2 days. I could do without that, because if it had just been one crazy Bellator event, it would have been not so bad. But it was trying to fit in like the 2, and then obviously we had the other boxing.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, for us, we have to watch all those fights and make notes.
I know, yeah.
So my day started in the morning and went all the way straight through to the actual podcast that we did late in the evening.
Yeah,
I think it went through 2 hours.
Yeah, I think I speak for everyone, and I appreciate your dedication to doing it. And you didn't come in. You didn't come in half-assed. You did the work. You watched the fights. You made the notes. and you showed me you showed me your paper with like notes or scrolls
my God,
from different directions, and
yeah.
I can respect that absolutely. But yeah, nice easy one today. The main card for UFC Norfolk was majority. I think all the fights finished early, so it was nothing too strenuous. There's not even a great deal to break down in a lot of the fights. They're so quick, but there is a lot to talk about though.
There is. You say there's not a lot to break down, but I think there is in a couple of the bouts regarding some of the submission exchanges.
Yeah,
we saw some really nice stuff, which is nice to see. You know, some UFC events in the past have been really striking orientated, but this one was very grappling orientated, which I really appreciate. Well, I appreciate it all, of course, but it is nice to see some sexy groundwork, let's say.
absolutely. Yeah, and I think we've been quite blessed this year. Like since the beginning of 2020, all the UFC cards that we've covered, there hasn't been a boring one yet, like or a bad one. We've been very lucky since we've been doing the show almost weekly. We've been very lucky in that we can just keep churning out these big good cards. And like you say, we've been treated to a lot of high level grappling and striking. There was also a bit of controversy, which is always good to have a little chat about.
Yeah.
So so the card opened up with Grant Dawson versus Derek Minner. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. I'll just do the both. So this one's one of the few which got through to the second round, actually. So the first round, it began with Minner attacking Dawson with some leg kicks. Obviously, Grant Dawson's thought quite highly of, and you could see as the fight went along why he's so highly thought of. Dawson goes in for the flying knee strike, and Minner defends, looking for a guillotine choke early. And then Dawson wriggles free of the choke and he gets on top. He managed to get top control on a downed Minner. What did you take from that kind of early exchange?
Yeah, I mean, it was it was all systems go. I love these bouts where they just come out not messy. It's like watching an exciting film that's action from the start. You know, it captivates you and it takes you right to the end. That was how I saw this fight. It was all go. I think didn't Minner take this fight short notice as well?
Yeah, I believe
he did. You know, so he took it on short notice, and Dawson didn't make weight by a good number of pounds. So I really respect the guy going in there against him. Minner did say that he felt that Dawson's fight record was a little bit padded. You know, I can get what you're saying with that maybe, but nevertheless, so Minner come out absolutely flying. He did that really good knee, and I actually thought he winded Dawson slightly with that, with the way that he went down to the ground. And of course, and then we see, Minner, which we know about, with his guillotines, he went straight for the head. And he was on it, and there was some really nice exchanges, but it did put him on his back. But from his back, he was showing some really nice jiu-jitsu skills, and he went for a sweeping armbar where you feed your arm underneath the leg.
Okay.
That is really good if they're down on one knee or two knees. It's a really good armbar attack because it's really fast, really fluent. But the issue with it is you just have slightly less upper body control, and Dawson was able to posture out of it. And being it's a relatively short notice fight for Minner, must have taken something out of his core to really press through with that armbar. But they quickly went back to their feet again, didn't they? And it was just scrambles galore. And he was jumping for the guillotine a second time, again putting himself on his back. It's the only issue, but it looked like it was done at one point. But a scrambling ensued again, and then we end up with Minner on top. Yeah. I mean, we're pretty much coming up to halfway. I think he would have done 3 guillotine attempts, in the first half of the first round. And in one of them, he gets like an open hooks guard and sweeps Dawson with it, and almost nails a mounted variant as well. But no, Dawson managed to exchange out of it and finished with that big 2.5 minutes of exchanging submissions, ends up in side control.
Yeah, I suppose when you take a fight on short notice, you're going to go back to the techniques and the attacks which which you feel, your sort of bread and butter, if you like, the things which you feel is your strongest attributes. And it's clear that Minna fancies that guillotine choke because he went, like you say, he went for it 3 or 4 times in the opening couple of minutes. Towards the end of the round, then Dawson transitions into Minna goes for another guillotine choke, and Dawson escapes while getting side control, and he transitions into half guard.
That's right,
Minna, and then Dawson advances to the full mount onto Minna, and he gets back control, where landing a few good strikes. Dawson's looking to be a naked choke as the round ends. How did you score the round? Because I'm interested in that.
Yeah, this was quite tricky to score because you had Minna obviously going for the all-out ending subs, which is a little bit like if you see strikers, you've got one just going all out with single bombs to try and knock the guy out, and the other guy trying to be a little bit more, poetic with their way about going in the match. So, Dawson was looking for positions. He was looking to try to control the top position, which he did get. For me, I would give it to Dawson merely because he had the really dominant positions and was trying to ground and pound for there. And just to say about, Dawson's control, when he had that half guard, he was pinning the far wrist down. And this is something, I'm quite big on because it keeps the guy in half guard who's underneath flatter on their back. Obviously, when you're in half guard, you want to try and get the far under pummel. And this is what can ignite some deep half guard, some sweeps, some leg lock attempts maybe, and some scramble ups, or even go into an open or a full closed guard. So, to control that far wrist, was a really, really good control. And being the bigger man as well and stronger man, dominating that wrist like that, obviously stopped all the crazy submissions as well, where I had that half guard top position. So that was a really good call by Dawson. That really impressed me that he chose that variant. And then, of course, you said he got mount, and then he got a little bit of a back take scenario and ended in a rear naked choke. So for that reason, I have to give Dawson the round.
Yeah, I had it as 10-9 for Dawson, but it was I had to think about it a bit because I kind of was like, when you look at it, really, Minna was the one who came closer to finishing the fight, but like you say, Dawson managed to get mount, and he managed to take his back just about. And some other bits and pieces.
He ended in a really dominant position, which is, that's always going to go strong in your favour, finishing dominantly. It's a fact that he took the mount and the back take as well, and was finishing with a rear naked choke, which looked like if he had another 30 seconds on the clock, could have put it away.
He ran out of time, didn't he?
I just had to give him the 10-8 on that alone.
10-8 you gave him, did you, or 10-9?
Oh, sorry, 10-9, sorry.
I was going to say, I didn't think it was
sorry.
So, round two began with Dawson grabbing Minna, and he scored a takedown relatively quickly into the round. Dawson, he gained the full mount. He starts attacking Minna with the ground and pound, and he transitions to back control, and he catches in the rear naked choke and the tap for the win. It took him the whole of the first round to get the rear naked choke, and he ran out of time, and then he kind of did it in about a minute and a half in the round two.
Yeah, I think Minna was tired on two fronts, really. The fact that it was a short notice fight probably wasn't in the best condition that he could have potentially have been in, and the fact that he was busting a nut to get those submissions. I really believed he could get Dawson with them. He really committed to him, and I really looked at the guy's face on his knees on the floor. That he knew he had to tap to a guy that he felt he was better than. He was gutted, but Dawson went over and shook his hand, was really respectful. It'd be nice to see Dawson make weight, to see whether he's going to keep with that weight division or not. And I really look forward to seeing Minna again, just for his tenacity with the grappling. It was a really good viewing for a jiu-jitsu point of perspective.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see him get a full camp and be prepared for his opponent, because obviously it's not just the aspect of not being prepared from a camp point of view, but it's equally not being prepared for your opponent and what your opponent can do.
Yeah.
And he did that. That's obviously contributed to the way he's gone about attacking the fight, because he's tried to finish it early with a submission.
Yeah.
He's clearly thought that Dawson is, accessible there. He feels like he can catch him out with the guillotine or with the submissions. But yeah, you're right about Dawson, and it's not the first time, unfortunately, on this shorter show and shorter card that we're going to be talking about someone missing weight. But full credit to
I mean, I haven't looked
Minay, he takes
into.
the fight.
I never read into what the issue was with his weight. I'm guessing they must have put some kind of statement of a reason why, but missed it by a fair old bit. To me, it's just not acceptable, really. I mean, if you're going to take a fight on short notice and they allow you a little wayward, on the weigh-ins, I'd get that. But
it's frustrating because obviously you have the main event is affected by the same thing. So Dawson missed weight by 4 pounds. That's quite a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it
when
is.
It doesn't sound like a lot in terms of day-to-day people who are not involved in fighting, but like 4 pounds for a fighter is a big miss.
Off. Yeah, and what's he going to do? Is he going to stay down at that weight, or is he going to go up a weight? Because he's got the size to go up a weight, and he's a young lad, so he's going to beef up. I guess he's still got some maturity to go through with his body. So it'd be interesting to see what he decides to do.
Yeah, I was just trying to see if there was if I could see any sort of statement. So Dawson says he makes no excuses for missing weight, which I don't know if that makes it worse, but he says he's staying at featherweight.
Right.
Which, like in some ways, if he had said, I don't know, if he'd come up with an excuse, you can kind of say, well, okay.
Yeah, or to even just say,
not an excuse, a reason, why he had missed it.
Maybe even if he had said, look, I was cutting weight and for some reason my body just started running dry, and it won't, as if to excuse himself, but to say I have no excuses or reasons, and that's just bizarre to me. I don't know.
Yeah. So he said the full statement was, "There's no performance that I could have had today make up for the missing weight like I did. There's no excuse there. I'll be back. I will be at 145 and I will make weight next time. It's in the past. There's no excuse. I felt like I got a lot better in this camp. I have the best training partners and we're all advancing so much. I want to get back in there and really show off what I can do."
Well, let's see. That's all we can do, really.
Yes. We can't. Is what it is, I suppose. But frustrating nonetheless. Okay, so I think in this next fight, I'm going to enjoy talking about this because I feel like we may have just seen one of the next female stars. But we'll see.
Yes, absolutely.
It was Megan Anderson, who's a pretty big name, versus Norma Dumont.
She's a pretty big girl as well, isn't she? So I think she's a 6-footer, right?
Yeah.
Big girl. Tall girl.
I would be very surprised if her next fight is not against Amanda Nunes, because obviously they are desperate for people to go against Nunes. But right, let's get into this one first before we get down that aisle. It didn't last too long. Round begins with Anderson and Dumont exchanging a few strikes. Dumont grabs Anderson as she's going for a jab, and she gets her against the cage wall. Dumont attacks her with a few knee strikes to the thighs. Anderson lands a knee strike of her own. Dumont scores a quick takedown on Anderson, and Anderson gets right back to her feet, but Dumont quickly gets her back against the cage wall, and the fighters separate. Anderson levels Dumont with a straight right, and Dumont is out cold.
Yes, I mean you pretty much summed it up. I did like the exchange. Dumont was impressing me right up until it all went wrong, because she's hugely inexperienced as well. I think that was her 5th fight, and to come into UFC and perform good against someone as good as Megan Anderson. You know, I was quite impressed. I think we're going to see some good things. I just hope they, you know, if UFC has a back, I presume she must have some kind of contract that may maybe help her build her record a little bit. But I think she could be making something of herself. She certainly took it to Megan. You know, had her up against the fence for a good portion of the round. It was a little lost on trying to get her to the floor. She tried to muscle her down a little bit, showing a little bit of that inexperience maybe.
She got caught, didn't she? As they
Yeah,
separate, and she kind of got caught with that straight right, which I think she showed a bit of an experience maybe by
yeah,
not being maybe ready for it as they separated. But
yeah.
I like you say,
I
she did enough to impress at this level with being such an
Yeah,
inexperienced fighter.
I think I think the whole case she come out quite tenacious, hunting down for that takedown. She tried to muscle a big Megan Anderson down to the ground. Trying to muscle someone down is going to take a lot of energy out of you for one.
Mm.
But when they broke free, they were in opposite stances. So you got Dermont in southpaw, and you're always risking the cross hands. You know, and she threw a leg kick that was really laboured, and so clearly was tired. If you're tired, you need to regroup. And what she should have done was, gone on to a little bit of a circling footwork just to recover herself. But she didn't. She tried to kick when she was just too tired to kick. That left her even more immobile, and she just stood in front of her, and that's why it ended her demise. She could have got to the end of the round and had another little shot at the beginning of the second round to try to make something of it. But her inexperience, she stayed right in front of her while tired. You can't do that with someone of that range and of that size. Yeah, so lessons to be learned there
Yeah,
for her.
yeah, definitely. I mean, in some ways, I'd like to see Megan Anderson have another fight
Yeah,
before they chuck her into the Nunes fight.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I think they're so desperate for someone to fight Nunes, especially
yeah.
because Cyborg's gone.
Mm.
They, I just think that they're likely to chuck someone in, and
Yeah,
Megan
could happen.
Anderson, she looked relative. Like if you take out the knockout, Megan Anderson didn't do a great deal in this fight. She landed
Mm.
like a knee strike, and
Yeah,
I think that's about a couple of jabs, maybe. That's about
yeah, but
it. And I don't mean
yeah,
that in a
but
way that she was bad. I just mean that up until the knockout, Dumont had done the majority of the kind of attacking and stuff.
sure.
And maybe we didn't get really to analyze Megan
No,
Anderson
but
in
we
this
can
fight.
analyze it. We can analyze it for what it is, and what we did see was some good takedown defense. She was using a forearm
Yeah.
to rip the head up of Demont, making it hard to use her shorter stature to get under her and get onto the legs and hips and lower to try to utilize a takedown. So she showed some good strategy there. She was just calm, waited her time, defended the takedown for which she was being put under pressure. And can we not commend her for the fact that okay, we didn't get to see a lot of her attacks, but what she did do regards her attacks, put it away. So I see some really good defense, really good countering because she countered that takedown attempt.
Yeah, she
Um,
did very well.
yeah, she did that very well. And then really, well, she was just so precise. I mean, she must have known she had range on her to just launch with no real prep up of that cross hand. She just must just knew her range was on, and she threw it almost knowing it was going to be landing. So I'm impressed all round. To be fair.
Yeah, I was impressed. I was just going to see when her last. So she's on a 2-fight win streak now because she previously beat at UFC 243, which was the one in Australia. She
Yeah,
beat Zara Fahim dos
yeah,
Santos
yeah,
via a triangle choke. Before
yeah,
that, she lost to Felicia Spencer,
yeah,
who we obviously see fight Zara Fahim, which is
yeah,
interesting. So in
yeah,
Megan Anderson's previous fight, she beat Zara via a triangle choke, and then
yes,
her fight before that, she lost to Felicia Spencer via a rear naked choke. And
yeah,
then obviously in this fight, which we'll talk about in a minute, we see those two fight. So it'll be interesting whether they put Spencer versus Megan Anderson again.
Yeah,
Maybe the winner gets a
I
shot
would
at.
say that would make sense.
Yeah, I think so.
That one, and I want to see it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I
See
mean,
what
I was just
happens
looking
this
at
time
Megan
round.
Anderson's record. She's fought some big names. When you look at the only people she's lost to is Felicia Spencer,
Yeah,
Holly Holm,
yeah,
and so that was in Invicta, but Cindy Dandois. But she's beaten Kat Zingar. Sorry, I can't speak. Put my teeth in. Kat Zingano.
yeah, and she's good.
Yeah, she is. She's had her moments over the years. I
Yeah,
think she's improved a great deal.
yeah,
Zara Fane. So her UFC records, just UFC, is 3-2 now, and the two
yeah,
people she's lost to is Spencer and Holly Holm.
yeah,
So I mean, most people in that division are losing to Holly Holm. Let's face
yeah.
it.
Hmm.
So that's there's no disgrace in losing to someone of Holly Holm's
That's right. Yeah,
stature, and that was also in June 2018, which is coming on 2 years ago.
yeah.
Now, which obviously that's depressing in itself, by the way, that 2018 was 2 years ago.
I know.
Let me tell you. So yeah, I think the Felicia Spencer fight makes the most sense.
Mm,
Yeah, I'd
yeah.
like to see that. To see,
Mm,
fight for the right, if you like, to face
yeah.
Amanda Nunes. I'm not sure
Yeah.
it's much of a prize to get
Uh-huh.
to get that fight, but then
Yeah.
I thought both Spencer and sorry, my mind's gone blank. Megan Anderson showed enough that maybe even if they wouldn't beat Nunes, there's enough there that they're not necessarily going to get.
They'll make a
It
fight
wouldn't
of
be
it.
like a miss. It wouldn't be a mismatch.
No, they'll make a fight of it.
It could be that Nunes will go in and destroy him in 30 seconds, but I mean, she's
Yeah.
done that to many fighters, and
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily give you the
Yeah.
whole picture.
For
And
Megan
obviously,
to stand a chance, she needs to know how to make her unusual frame in terms of her height and reach. She needs to make that work for her. And it's a little bit hard to see because it was so short and fleeting today. But nevertheless, she did show really good strategy in that clinch against someone short, stocky, and she used her forearm, to get back out of range. And that takedown defense, she used her long frame and long arms to reach round. That made it hard for Dermot to take her down. And then obviously in the striking, we saw her range being utilized really well. So I think once she gets down her strategies with her body composition, she's gonna be a hard contest for anybody, including Nunes.
Yeah, and I think two things which stood out from me from your breakdown there is one, Amanda Nunes is 5'8" and Megan Anderson's 6 foot, so she'd have the height advantage there, and she's got a reach advantage of a few inches. And also, you need a good takedown defense if you're fighting against Amanda Nunes, who's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and a brown belt in judo. So you need to be able to defend those types
she's
of attacks.
a lethal, full package. She really is. But they start on the feet, and the advantage, as long as the strategy is put in place, is for Megan. I think she could get out, and she has to try to get ahead, stay ahead, kind of do a little bit like Hooker was doing, footwork in a way. She has to get her footwork down against someone like Nunes, and score as much as she can outwardly to take the sting and the ferocity out of Nunes's game, so that if it does come that she closes in the distance, she's lost some of that power. And if she does manage to get the takedown, that she took her into deficit enough not to be submitted or ground and pounded. And I think we could be in for a really good fight then.
Yeah, definitely. She's got a 4.5-inch reach advantage as well over
that's substantial.
Nunes, Megan Anderson has. So that's pretty big. Yeah. But Megan Anderson, impressive. Norma Dumont did enough that I'd like to see her again.
Yeah.
Maybe against someone maybe around her, the same, like compared to Megan Anderson, Norma Dumont is, she's very inexperienced.
Yeah,
Megan Anderson is, despite only being 30, and only having 5 fights in the UFC, she is very experienced. You know,
yeah,
she's had
yeah.
fights in Invicta, and in fact, her as a professional, she's had 15 fights.
That's right. Yeah,
She's
you know,
won 11 of those, which is impressive. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, Demont did enough to intrigue me.
yeah.
Um,
I think we're going to see more of her, and like I said, I just want to see her up against someone appropriate for her experience.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Maybe this was a bridge too far so early, perhaps.
yeah,
But I'd like to see
agreed.
her with another sort of 5 or 6 fights under her belt, fight Megan
Mm.
Anderson again, then to
Yeah,
see,
I mean that's all possible.
see how she goes. Next up was Ion Kutalaba versus Magmed Ankalilov. Ankalev. We'll go with. I'm so sorry. I'm dreadful with names. I'm gonna start getting like a Google Translator thing where it breaks it down into like phonetically, because I butcher these fighters' names, and then I gotta ask them on the show, and I've got to hope that they don't watch me butchering their names. But yeah, Ion Kutaleba versus Mahmoud Ankalev. I did it again. Ankalaev. Ankalaev. That's how you say it. But I
I
keep
don't
saying
know.
it the other way. No, it is Ankalaev.
Should
It's
we just say
Ion.
black shorts, red shorts?
It's Ion Kutalaba versus Mahmoud Ankalaev. There you go. I'm going to cut that
Okay.
so it's just that. I'm not going to butcher it. This was a weird fight, man. It was only lasted 38 seconds, but it was weird.
Oh man, I was really looking forward to this as well.
Yeah, me too. I was really looking
Uh,
forward to it.
I knew it was going to go down, and it was really hard to predict for me who was going to win, which are the ones I enjoy watching the most. I just wasn't sure who was going to come out victorious in this, but for it to end the way it did was really frustrating. But what we did see was quite exciting, but so fleeting, and I feel like it was a taster of a meal that you would enjoy, but you haven't got enough money to have your meal. It's just frustrating,
Yeah, they
and
got to run it back.
you
I think they must
yeah,
have.
I
They
think
must run it
they
back.
have to do this fight again, and I feel sorry for the lad. I really do. You know,
Well,
they put so much into their training, and for it to end like that. But can we really blame the ref? The ref is there to keep them safe, and I'd imagine, you know, I would much rather them stop it early and stop something late with regards to choke or taking too many hits. I think that's when
but
refereeing, when it's done bad, is at its ugliest. But
yeah, but
I
so
think it was
here's my
stopped
point
early.
with that, though. We'll break the actual fight down now. But my
Yeah.
point with this is, if he'd stopped it about 15 to 20, 15 seconds, 10 seconds maybe earlier, I'd have been completely okay with it, because at
Right.
that point he looked like his head was all over the place. He looked like he was wobbling. But by the time he stopped it, he had stopped wobbling his head, and he was refocused, and I think he hit a strike just before. So
Yeah.
to me, if he's stopping it because he thinks he's unsteady on his feet and he's rocked, he
Yeah.
should have stopped it about 5 or 10 seconds before, not
Yeah.
when
Okay.
he did.
So, from my experience of things, I don't agree, and I'm
Okay.
just giving my reasons why. I'm all open for people's viewpoint, including yours. But the reason I disagree is because when you're out in the open like that, so they wasn't leaning up against the fence, you know, where the fence was keeping him up. But when someone's truly, you know, rocked in a way where it's possible for a referee to step in, it's all about the legs. It's not
Okay.
so much what happens with your arms or whether your head swaggers a little bit. Trust me, if you get rock dizzy, it's your legs that go.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was squatting the whole time. His legs were what I say is soft. He had a kink
Okay.
in his legs the whole time, which means that he was balanced. As much as he moved his head around, which was an unusual body gesture, I just think it was just his way of you know, feeling elusive. Maybe, I don't know, but you know, the argument the other way is I can absolutely understand why the ref thought, oh, something ain't right here. He's probably focusing on the upper body, obviously,
Yeah,
because there
yeah.
was big punches going down and big head kicks going down. So he had to focus on the upper extremities, you know, just in case anything further consequential was going to happen. But as I look at that, I see that his legs were underneath him the whole time, and that tells me he wasn't in trouble enough for it to be warranted to be stopped. But refs are humans, and they will make mistakes. And if there's a mistake to be made, as much as it's a big shame, is for it to be stopped early rather than something potentially to be stopped late.
Yeah, definitely.
And the simple reason of that is we can run this fight again. And I hope Dana does, because that one excites me.
Yeah, I was looking forward to it. I will say, when I saw the replay, I think it looks worse for the referee in the replay because you see that none of the kicks land. They're all kind of blocked or they miss. So when you see it in super slow motion, you see that, of course, he wasn't rocked because he never got hit. But in real time, it looked like at least two of those kicks connected with his head. And then he starts doing the weird thing with his head, which I think, and judging by what the commentator said, I think he was trying to rope-a-dope him in a bit and try and get Mahmoud to come forward so that he could catch him himself. And we've got a very interesting question relating to that strategy, rope-a-dope strategy, which we'll get to later. But so round one begins with Kutilaba attacking Ankalaev with some leg kicks, and then Ankalaev rocks Kutilaba with a series of head kicks and a plethora of strikes. And then the referee jumps in. So obviously I've read that from the kind of the write-up, which I pasted into my document. Obviously we see from the slow motion replays, none of the head kicks really connected, and none of the strikes really connected in a way which is going to stop a fight. But what happened for people who are listening or watching who haven't maybe seen the fight and they just were listening to this is, as he's done like a high kick and it's been sort of blocked, he started moving his head as if he's dizzy or unsteady, and he did it a couple of times. And obviously this fight only went 38 seconds, but the fact that he did it a couple of times tells you how quickly he did it. And he was sort of rocking around a little bit, and I thought in real time, oh, he's gone, he's gone.
I think it was
and
a
then
crosshand
all of a sudden
I think it was a crosshand, wasn't it, that set all this off? I'll keep watching the replay, and I think that's what set it all off. But that head kick, I think, is the one that the ref thought was really hugely consequential in it all.
But it doesn't connect, does it?
Yeah. So here's this rope-a-dope talk. I don't think any good fighter will use a rope-a-dope strategy after being hit hard in a way where it's taking him off balance and then to draw an opponent on. I just don't think that's sound advice for a camp to tell a fighter to do that. But quite simply because a ref potentially could. To me, a rope-a-dope is trying to make out that you're tired. To me, that's what rope-a-dope means. It means you're backing off with negative footwork, taking yourself on the outer fringes of whatever the fight area is, a ring or a cage, and looking like you're done on your feet, drawing them onto you then, because that way you're not a hurt fighter. You're someone who's just fatiguing, trying to disengage from the fight while you regroup yourself. A ref ain't going to stop it because you're tired.
No,
but he's going to stop it if you think you're hurt. And so that's why I don't think he was really rope-a-doping him. I just think he was a little stunned by that crosshand. Some of the big kicks come in, and I just think it was his way of first feeling some kind of rhythm. I can understand why people might say that he was rope-a-doping. Because he sort of moved his head like that and then threw a massive overhand just
it was
before
like a huge, like wild swing. And do you think the fact that the two punches he throws toward right before it stopped, do you think the fact that they're so wild and like they're almost like windmill style WWF windmill punches, do you think like the fact that they were so wild also contributed to the ref stopping it? Like he felt like he was like if a fighter's been caught and they just like it's like a last resort type thing, if you see what I mean.
No, I get you, but to me it's still a form of intelligent defense. You can use this term, best form of defense is attack. That was what was going down in my evaluation of what I saw.
Yeah, I thought so too. But I just wondered whether you thought that might have contributed to it, because I just thought it was weird.
I mean, without asking the ref to actually know, no, I don't think that contributed to it. I just think he was looking at the upper extremities of his body, saw this wobbling head, and thought he was concussed on his feet.
Strange, wasn't it?
Certainly,
Because as soon as he
certainly
called it off,
effective, but
as soon as he
it's
called it
ho-hum.
off, Kutalaba was, he wasn't like he was disorientated in any way. As soon as the ref called it off, he was like, he instantly reacted, didn't he? And he was like, no.
Yeah.
Which, all fighters do that when they lose. But it was just a shame because this and the Megan Anderson fight was the Felicia Spencer fight was the two fights that I was looking forward to the most. After Figueroa missed weight.
Yeah,
these were the two fights I was looking forward to the most. So for it to go down like this was disappointing. But the good thing is
we'll see
we get
this in
to
the
see it
future.
again.
Yeah,
I hope they
absolutely
run it back soon, actually, because no one took any damage. I mean, there's nothing to say they couldn't run it back next week, really.
Yeah. I mean, it's more frustrating for Dana White being a businessman. He's got to pay up for fight purses again.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what he said actually about it. But
but
then if one of the fights falls through next week on UFC 248, they could easily pop this on it and tell the two fighters after after it finished last night, don't go and drink and eat and do whatever when you would normally do. Stay on weight. If a fight falls through next week, we'll fly you down there and get the fight done. Because why not?
I'm sure none of them are hurt from what's happened, but whether that stops any of them going out and celebrating the end of a fight camp or not, because fight camps are horrible.
That's the problem, isn't it? But it's like one extra week, isn't it, to get the fight done? Is what I mean. So that was that fight, bit of a non-starter, but for Mahmoud and Kalov, that's another win on his record.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Don't think it's a win that's going to really push on the buzz around him, though.
When he looks back, he won't be happy with it, but a win's a win. He'll be happy for that much of it, but he won't see it as something to be, happy about in a big scheme. Fighters want to fight.
Yeah. Next up, I really, really enjoyed this 3-minute fight. I really like Felicia Spencer. It's Felicia Spencer versus Zara Fern.
Yes.
Obviously, like we just mentioned, Zara Fern, last fight or recent fight, she lost to Megan Anderson. So this time she's up against Felicia Spencer.
Yeah.
The round begins with Spencer attacking Fern with a head kick. Fern and Spencer exchange a few combinations. Fern backs up Spencer, landing a straight left. Fern charges at Spencer while swinging at her. Spencer then grabs Fern and she gets her up against the cage wall. Spencer scores a takedown. Fern and she gets the full mount. Spencer starts again, attacking Fern with the ground and pound. Spencer transitions to back control and then back to full mount, where she lands some more strikes. There was a lot of unanswered strikes, and the referee eventually jumps in. First question: could this have been stopped earlier?
Yeah, I think this one could have been.
Few too many strikes to the head for my liking.
And Zara looked, she looked a little lost on the ground, how to escape from there, to be honest, as well.
She did, yeah.
In fact, her whole demeanor before fights, not just this one, is that she's a little scared to be there almost.
Do you think she looks like a rabbit in the headlights? She looks like it gets to her a bit.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether this is just her personality. If you see the way she was receiving the strikes from Mount as well, her face was absolutely wincing. Obviously, doesn't like being hit, like no human should like being hit. But obviously doesn't receive it in any. Yeah, you can be calm under it. She was not. She was completely squinting. She didn't have her feet planted on the ground, trying to shrimp out or bridge. So it was either just didn't have the know-how to escape, or was just blinded by the fact that punches and elbows were coming down to her face. But she had the whole scared look from the beginning, and she actually she did quite well in some little areas, but they're so fleeting. Mistakes all started really in the clinch. I think the striking she was doing okay, but in the clinch she was doing a thing called, we call it a set piece, which is where you have static footwork up against the fence, and Spencer kept stepping behind her leg, and you've got to step back out of it, but she was not. She was allowing her to step behind that back leg, and that's what tripped her down. So that was mistake number one. And mistake number two really was the prep for the ground, because clearly there's not enough jiu-jitsu going on in our training camp, because she just looked lost. It wasn't that Spencer was doing anything fancy. She was just working her game, getting the positions, and ground and pounding at every opportunity. But Zara just was not doing what should have been done to at least make it hard for her to throw down those shots or maintain that mount position. You very rarely see mount position used really effectively anymore. And for the simple fact that there's a lot of chance of escaping the position, and that's why you don't see it so often. But yeah, she was lost. She was held there way too easily, way too long in terms of the referee stopping it. But she come out unscathed. She wasn't cut. She wasn't concussed by any stretch. I just don't know what her future is now. Whether she'll get cut or not. I can't just try to think of her other results that she's had. Just trying to think back.
Give me 2 seconds.
Have you got them to hand? So I'm kind of curious to see, because she's lost two in a row,
so I mean,
hasn't she, at least?
What I will say about just while I bring these up is, regardless of how she looked on her feet, when she went down, she looked like she was not up to this standard of fighting. In any way. She looked lost. Like you said, a full mount is not the most difficult position to get out of.
Yeah.
But she did not look in any way capable of doing so. That would be a worry to me.
Yeah, absolutely. The big worry for me is someone who's being mounted and hit and having their feet up in the air. It kills you.
She wasn't even trying to get out of it. She was just covering up and just taking the shots.
Yeah, this is a twofold issue. One, the educated know how to escape from a potential finishing position such as a mount, and the fact that she was so scared to move. I think it's a combination of both. Not really being a fighter. I just don't know what her future is in UFC.
So that was her second fight in the UFC. Previous one, like I said, was against Megan Anderson, which she also lost via submission.
She's not young. She's 36 now as well. She's not exactly young
36, either. Yeah, she is 36. Obviously, she's from Paris. That's all the information I have, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
so I wonder whether we'll see her again. I don't know how many fights she's got on her contract.
Yeah, I don't think so. Only because I felt like she looked. Obviously, she got submitted against Megan Anderson.
Yeah.
Maybe she did better on the ground in the Megan Anderson fight. I'd have to go back and have a look. But she looked helpless, which is a worry. Because, like I said, for the last 30 seconds, 45 seconds of that fight, she wasn't trying to get out of the full mount. She was just taking the shots, which is problematic for me. And the other thing I just wanted to say is, just to be clear, really, is I'm not saying that I'm not happy with the amount of strikes she took to the head because it's a female or anything like that. Because I said the same thing, if you remember, on last week's show about Deontay Wilder, and that I felt they should have stopped it a round earlier because he was just getting pummeled around the head and body by Tyson Fury, and he wasn't defending himself. He wasn't hitting back, and he was just taking it. Whilst we know a lot more about CTEs than we did 5 years ago, we still don't know the damage that these these unprotected shots are doing. So we don't need to see someone in full mount getting pummeled over and over again. It wasn't a main event. It wasn't a title fight where you're trying to let it run as a referee. You try not to just call it early. She was taking those unanswered shots. She wasn't defending herself. Come on, let's protect the fighters.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion, though. Obviously, you might have a different opinion. Other people might have a different opinion.
I'm like I say, I'd much rather see something get stopped a little early, as frustrating as it is.
Well, you look at those two fights we just talked about, mate. The one where people said, what's the ref doing? He's jumped in far too early. And then the
Mm.
very next fight, the referee's letting someone take unanswered headshots in full mount.
Yeah. It's not easy in there for
consistency in it.
refs. It's just not easy. I mean, don't get me wrong, you are going to get good refs, bad refs, but I think for the most part, the refs that are in UFC do a pretty good job. They're really under scrutiny at all times, as are the judges. But the judges is frustrating. I think we come to a conclusion that judging is not even suspicious in a way of any purpose wrongdoing, but you got to wonder whether they're
Watching the
qualified
fights.
to judge to judge an MMA match. But for the referees, I really respect what they do. I've done quite a bit of refereeing over the years myself.
I was going to say, I was going to ask you if you ever thought of doing refereeing.
Yeah. I've done a qualification as a referee. It's something that I put as a string, to my game, just in case that's something that I wanted to venture down into. But I just don't have time as it is. For whatever reasons, if things slows up as a coach, I might go down that route.
Yeah. What about judge? Why don't more companies or commissions, whichever, use former fighters as judges?
Yeah, I think it's like a little clique, isn't it, out in America? Like I just think the commission have got it tied down, so it's amongst certain people. It's almost like the old karate and taekwondo days, that the ones who were fifth down and above, they're the ones that ran all the grading events and were taking all the money. And it was really hard for you to get your fifth dan to get into that clique because they had it nailed down. Okay. So you had these crusty old men sat at the head table judging people that were just giving people for money. It's a little bit like that. I think that's how it is with the commission and the judging in these states. I think there's a clique and it's hard to get into.
Strange, isn't it? Because when you look at obviously mixed martial arts particularly, but even with boxing, but mixed martial arts specifically, you've got kickboxers, you've got judokas, you've got karate, you've got boxing, you've got jiu-jitsu. There's so many different aspects to MMA that you could have top level, real high quality judges or former fighters, former competitors being the judges who've been there and done it.
Yeah,
I just think it would make such a difference to the big. And also, the other side to it is if you've got 3 judges and 2 of them have been, fought at the top level, or even just, being professional fighters in the UFC or Bellator or Pride or wherever it may be, people will be more likely to take into account like whatever they score. They'll be less likely to question it than they would if it's
and
just
I think
some
generally,
stuffy old man.
they'll be judging better as well.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, absolute full agreement with you. I mean, we do see fighters becoming commentators, which is great because obviously they know what they're talking about. But surely you want former fighters to be judging because
more than
they know
anything else, really.
they know what they're watching. They know how to score it. Yeah, you'll still get other, people always going to have their opinions and not always agree with the judging even then. But I think it will be truly and honestly done to a higher order. Because some of these fighters must feel absolutely robbed with some of the questioning. It can't be nice doing all your training camp and know that if you don't knock the person out or choke them out or armbar them in some form or fashion, you've got to leave it into the hands of the judges and it go against you when you know in your heart of hearts you won. That would hurt.
Yeah, and we've seen, fighters who've clearly won fights be robbed of a victory.
Yeah.
Okay, so the main event was for the UFC Flyweight Championship. It was number 1 ranked Joseph Benavidez versus number 3 ranked Davison Figueiredo. But Mr. Figueiredo missed weight. So the Flyweight Championship was only on the line if Benavidez won.
Yeah.
Now, this is frustrating. I just wanted to read you, before we go into the fight, just wanted to read you something which Mr. Dana White said about him missing weight. He says, let's start with the main event. Joseph Benavidez versus Davison Figueiredo. For those of you who don't know, Davison did not make weight. Insane. Unprofessional. How do
Yeah.
you show up for a title fight and not make weight? What does
Mm.
this mean? It means that Benavidez wins the title if he wins the fight. He's the new champion. If Davison wins the fight, the championship goes vacant. Obviously, that
Yeah.
was before the fight.
Yeah.
It is the first time he's ever missed weight, which makes it, in my mind, it's kind of because he's fought 7 times in the UFC, so he's
Yeah.
experienced. It's weird that it's his biggest fight, his title fight is what everyone works
Yeah.
towards as fighters, and then he misses weight.
Yeah.
But Dana
again,
White's not happy because it's the main event and it's a
yeah,
big fight.
absolutely, and I agree with Dan. I mean, at any time that fighters miss weight, it's unprofessional on a professional level. But if it's once or maybe maximum twice in your career in a regular fight, and you're going to lose a percentage of your fight purse, you can kind of okay it a little bit. But the fact that it's a title fight, no, there's no room for error for a title fight, not in the biggest event in the world. You just don't do it. Maybe they should not let these fights go ahead at all. As frustrating it is for the fans, but maybe the consequence is not enough. I just don't
Do you
get
know what
what
I
was
think
going
they
on with
should
that.
do? I think that they should, for whenever they do a title fight, or an interim title fight, they should always have a reserve.
Yeah, possibly so. Yeah, but
So
that
that
would mean
if someone
paying the
misses
person to
weight,
be in reserve, though.
well, they got enough money. I know,
Yeah, you would think
the
so. Yeah.
amount of money which ESPN pays for those pay-per-view rights up front, they
Yeah,
could pay a fighter just to fly in, have a
and be
hotel.
there on hold.
Yeah,
I think you know what. I think that could be a potential good idea.
because then if as soon as Figueiredo misses his weight, you say, ta out you go, and you bring
Yeah,
in your reserve flyweight who's ready, he's had a fight camp, he knows they could potentially fight, and bang, there's your
yeah,
punishment. Because they not
yeah,
only lose title fight, they lose the money, they lose
yeah.
everything. And I don't want to. I know weight cutting's hard. I know weight cutting is brutal in some cases, particularly for flyweight. If you're a big guy, flyweights are very
Yeah.
you lose a lot of weight, whatever. But
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
not fair. It's
what
not
you
fair to
suggest. No, it's
Benavidez
not.
either.
And but what you say is, what you've said about, drafting in a second fighter just in case, to always be on hold. It is a really good idea at the forefront, but there are issues with it. Who does it suit? It certainly suits the fans, and if fans happy, UFC is happy, I guess you would say. But I don't think you'd get fighters agree to it, and there'd be too uproar. And my reasoning for that is this: so if you're having a title fight and you're up against a top striker, he's got good takedown defense, he wants to avoid the ground at all costs, but the person they put in reserve is a real hardcore wrestler and a grappling specialist, you're going to do your whole fight camp
Yeah.
steered towards a striking takedown defense artist who wants to avoid the ground. You get what I'm saying.
But what about if they like the champion had to maybe, or they had to, both fighters had to agree the reserve, or even if they tried to match it up so that, but then I suppose not both fighters could be the same. And if you've got a
Yeah,
reserve for both fighters,
that's where it gets a
it
little
is
tricky.
difficult, but I'm sure they could work something out. Or
Yeah. There's such a big pool of fighters now. UFC
or
really have got
maybe,
stacked up divisions, so they could get away with doing something like that in some form. But I'm just pointing out potential issues
yeah,
and
of
why
course, yeah,
fighters
yeah.
might not like the idea. I mean, if they put it to votes, they might just be like, no, I don't think we like the idea of that.
Well, I mean, the other option, I suppose, is if they were to have 2 reserves, one for each fighter, so that you're matching up. So if you've got a wrestler versus a striker, you have another striker in reserve and another wrestler in reserve, and you kind of get them as similar as possible.
Yeah,
But
I don't know whether that's getting
then you've
too
got to pay 2
complicated, but
people.
to do.
But
Yeah, but I get what you're
they've got to
thinking.
do something. They've got to do
Yeah.
something because it's frustrating. And if
Yeah.
I was Joseph Benavidez, I'd be really pissed off this
Yeah,
morning.
yeah. It must be utterly frustrating for him.
And then there's the other aspect of it is did his weight give him an
Was it
advantage in the fight?
consequential? Well, yeah. I mean, it depends whether he had a hard weight cut to therefore miss weight. I mean, sometimes people take themselves to the edge and they just can't get that last bit off, which obviously means they're going to be in some form of deficit. But he didn't look like he was in any kind of deficit. He looked pretty fresh and pretty strong, and he definitely looked the bigger man out of the two. So predominantly, yeah, it can potentially give you an advantage. A championship fight is black and white. You make weight, you fight. You don't make weight, you don't fight. That's how initially it should be. You should
but then
be
in
robbed of your
this
opportunity.
aspect, if they'd had that aspect, they'd have lost their title fight. They've only got one title fight because it's a fight night card. It's not like a double main event with a couple of title fights.
Yeah, but
suddenly this card would have been disappointing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but as disappointing as the whole scenario around this fight was, my God, they brought it down, didn't they? They just went for it. It was great. We got a bit of everything. We got some striking going on. We got some great wrestling exchanges going on, and the ground exchanges were really pretty as well.
Seeing as this fight was very good, particularly the first round on the floor. I really enjoyed. So let's try something different. You take us through the kind of the first round because I know you watched the fights as we're talking.
Yeah.
So you take us through the first.
Yeah. I mean, they're coming at opposite stances, which is really interesting. What surprised me was I thought I'm going to see whether I can say this name right now. Figueiredo. How do you say it?
Call it Figueiredo, but
Figueiredo really surprised me in taking Benavidez down. He caught the leg really early, and decided to take him to the ground, which I don't know. It actually surprised me that would even happen because I would have said Benavidez was the better wrestler out of the two. So, but anyway, it went into a real quick flurry of submission attempts. Benavidez was doing typical type wrestle scramble ups, which left his arm tied in. And then he's got his head caught into some kind of potential weird inverted triangle attempt. But then Figueiredo then lost the top position into an armbar. So he transitioned, went for that armbar, and it actually looked curtains at one point. He was flipping over. Benavidez is really good at avoiding submissions, though. Obviously, really tenacious and strong and defiant under pressure, and managed to spin out of that armbar. And quickly they go back to the feet again for another exchange. And we saw Benavidez just hunt down and throw strikes and look for takedowns from the get-go. But that first exchange this is what I liked about this UFC. No one held back. Everyone went hell for leather from the get-go. And disappointing as everything was that we spoke about, they both come out hard and fast. So we started approaching the halfway point. It looked like how'd you say his name? Figueiredo. It looked like he was slowing up a little bit. Yeah, Figueiredo. His arms were dropping down a little bit, and he looked like he was taking a few deep breaths. And I was thinking, is he going to begin to fade? Because we know Benavidez, he's got amazing cardio. He just keeps plowing forward. And it looked like he was getting the better of him. But he started to get second wind, and it started to look good, started to look confident, and started shutting Benavidez down. It was an excellent first round. Benavidez was then trying to do several takedowns, but Figueiredo's takedown defense was really, really good. And not only was it good, when they did lock up, he was looking to knee, he was looking to elbow, looking to punch, making it not a relaxing affair for Benavidez to just smother him. He was having to shoot, exchange, and get back out because he was going to be struck upon. Absolute brutal first round. I mean, I'm curious, who did you give the first round to?
So I had it tied at 10-9 to Benavidez, mainly because I felt like striking, he was pushing forward a bit more. And it's obviously the early grappling exchanges. It was close.
Yeah, I mean, see, when I thought that,
Benavidez striking was very good.
Yeah, I did as well. At first I would have said the same. But when once I watched that round the second time, I had to look it back a second time because there was too much going on for me to jot down my notes. So I
Yeah,
had to watch it again.
it was
And when I
non-stop.
watched it the second time, I was actually not so sure that Benavidez did win it. He was on the receiving end of all those grappling exchanges.
Mm.
And as much as he was chasing down with the strikes and that, he was unable to be hugely consequential. And he was shooting and failing. And it was such a difficult round. I mean, really, you could argue to do it either or way on that one.
Yeah, I
Hard one
think
to score.
having a quick nose myself at the fight again,
Yeah,
and just going into the last minute of the first round, and Benavidez hit some really big strikes. He
yeah,
went for a takedown, but every time he went for a takedown, Figueiredo blocked it, and he blocked
yeah,
it really well. So then he would go back to the strikes. He would hit a leg kick or he'd hit a couple of strikes. And with about 45 seconds to go, he hits him with he tries to take him down, and Figueiredo kind of like bounces him off, and he just hits him with like a right hook.
yeah,
And just for a split second, Figueiredo, there's like a bit of a look on his face of I don't want to say panic, but like it shocked him a bit. But
yeah,
Benavidez didn't follow it up.
yeah,
And it was interesting. It was like just one shot. It wasn't like a combination, just one right hook.
yeah,
And then just right at the end of the round, then Figueiredo gets him kind of up against the cage a bit. Not right up against the cage, but just pushes him back. And then Benavidez is trying to defend himself by striking. And then
yeah,
right as the round ends, Benavidez is down and Figueiredo's looking for those strikes.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Weird submission going into the armbar at the start of the round from Figueiredo was, what would you call that? It was like the leg around the neck, and
Oh, yeah, it was a really
it's a
unusual
strange
position, and only really people in this sort of weight division get into those positions that have no name. But
yeah, there's
it,
visible.
it was certainly interesting.
Yeah, so round two,
Mm,
it begins with like Benavidez is looking for those kicks and those strikes.
yeah,
Uh, he is really on the front foot in
yeah,
terms of looking to try and nail one of those big strikes. Uh,
yeah,
and one thing I noticed about Benavidez is he every now and again he'll switch his stance to
yeah,
southpaw,
yes,
but only for a brief, just for a brief couple of seconds, and then he'll switch back. Do you know
yeah.
what the reason is for that? Like, is it just to
Yeah,
check
okay.
the action stuff a bit?
Yeah, you're going to get this a lot more with people who give away some reach advantage and height advantage, or combination of both. You're going to see them switching up because they're able to fire off more varied potential combinations to get in close distances. So, you remember when Holloway fought Volkanovski, is that I'm pronouncing it right?
Yeah,
When he fought him, that was a classic example of someone who was switching stances on the way in to mix up his combinations. To be able to close more distance as well, because you can do your combinations and actually step in and do a full step. The only issue with that is you're coming in quite square yourself, and and this is why we started seeing successes with the crosshand land and knock Benavidez off balance a couple of times, and I was beginning to worry myself, watching it, whether one was going to be landing a little bit too flush.
yeah.
Yeah, but they were
Just so I know it.
in the pocket.
Just
Mm,
yeah, Benavidez was looking back at the fight. It's a bit mad that he lost in some ways because, from a striking point of view, he was very much the aggressor. He was looking for those big shots.
yeah,
Didn't have the reach, maybe, and that's why that was causing him to very much almost run into it. Sometimes
yeah,
with the strikes, I don't know whether he's overbalancing or it's just because he hasn't got the reach, so he's got to go take a step or two in to try and
yeah,
nail the big shot. But
yeah,
he's
yeah,
falling forward sometimes.
yeah. I mean, we know how he fights. He fights the same way every time. This guy's really tenacious. Not the most beautiful or pretty about how he goes about it, and really that was his undoing a little bit. But I was more worried he was going to get caught as he was coming in. But the way he
Well,
got
he
caught,
did
he was
again,
actually on the
didn't
retraction. He was
he? Yeah,
actually
yeah,
on the outside. Um, Yeah, it's almost
Big
like
shot.
Figueiredo knew he was going to be landing it because he was reaching out with his lead arm, lining up and measuring it. If you keep looking back at that finish, he was doing almost like Conor McGregor does. He was reaching out to him, measuring him. He had his lead arm literally outstretched, knowing he was going to plant that crosshand. I think he knew he was onto something and was chasing him down for the kill, and he got the kill. So for that part, that impressed me.
Yeah, it was impressive. The finish comes. Okay, so we'll go through the round. The round begins with Figueiredo attacking Benavidez with a spinning back kick. Benavidez goes after Figueiredo by landing some leg kicks. Figueiredo then cracks Benavidez with an overhand right. He starts landing counter rights on a swinging Benavidez. Figueiredo absolutely levels Benavidez with a right hand, and he pounces on him with more strikes before the referee jumps in.
Yeah.
And the shot which takes him down before the hammer fists, I think it was.
Yeah.
That is a big shot. He cracks him, but it was a counter shot that you could see he had been lining up for the whole fight. I know in this particular instance, Benavidez was on the retreat in terms of his direction, but Figueiredo had been looking for that shot as Benavidez, was throwing a strike. He was looking for that right hand every time, and he just timed this right hand perfectly.
Yeah.
They said something about a clash of heads on the.
Yeah, I think that's what
TV.
opened up his. I think that's what opened up his forehead. I think that was that not in the second round? I saw a clash of heads, and blood immediately started coming out. But it ended up not being consequential to the outcome either or way. But it could have caused issues if the fight had been.
Big clash of heads as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was enough to open him up on the forehead, and and as the fight wears on, that cut could just get worse. But one fight I would like to just briefly go over on the undercard was because we had Britain's Tom Breeze fight on there. I don't know whether you had time to.
Right, I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
Tom Breeze
fought on
the because he's quite an exciting fight. He's someone who likes to bang, but he was fighting that Brendan Allen, and he's potentially equally as dangerous on the feet, but maybe has a little bit more ground prowess and wrestling behind him. I was kind of got high hopes for Tom Breeze to advance his game and to become somewhat of a contender at some point in the future. But it just looked like he come up a little short.
What
area
of the UK is he
from? I think isn't he Birmingham? Isn't he Birmingham? Is that right? I'm gonna have to check.
I wasn't sure if he from up your way. Oh.
Yeah, no. But it's just someone that I'd watch. He's quite an exciting fighter, but he just made a couple of bad decisions. Tried to take the guy's back when it weren't quite there and put him on his back, and he just showed a little bit of technical know-how in that half guard and got himself past. It allowed his when I was saying about pinning the wrist down in half guard or attacking that firearm, so the guy can't get off his back. He can't get on his side, which he needs to do. That was pretty much what was happening to him. He was allowing his arm to be put into a Kimura control, not even Kimura attack as such, although that was part of the sequence as well, that the threat was there for that attack, but it could help control that firearm. And it just showed a little bit of lack of knowledge maybe there on who knows what was going through his head. But that sort of like led to the start of the demise for him. Yeah, it was a bit frustrating to see because, like I say, I've got kind of high hopes, but he's going to have to address a few principal issues with his ground. Really, decision making. I think maybe he was too desperate to make a highlight reel and jump for a finish that just was not there, and it put him in that really bad situation. And he had another fleeting opportunity about 1 minute in. He nearly got onto into Allen's back and then fell off. Did go all out for an E-bar that just wasn't there, and then had a lame attempt at a triangle, but then was on his back at the latter part of the round. Got guard past knee on bellied and then got struck, and the referee stepped in to stop it because who was just feetling up receiving. But
Oh,
yeah, it's just one I just wanted to give a little mention.
No, I didn't realize that, so I would have obviously watched it for the show
just because
we
he was one of the British
do
guys.
focus on
Yeah,
British fighters,
there was some good fights on that. Because we got time to talk about another one that really impressed me. But if you haven't seen it, I think you should, because I think we got some big guys coming into the mix, ready to make their way up. One was that Marcin Tybura. I think he's Polish, and that's Sergey Spivak. And Spivak's got really good boxing, and he demonstrated that here. And I won't go through the whole fight, but the whole consensus of the fight was you have Spivak with really good boxing, and but then you had that Marcin showing some really good form and really good head kicks. He was for a lumpy guy that's a little soft bodied. He had some really nice dexterous kicks what he was throwing into the mix that just stopped Spivak being able to open up to full dexterity with his hands. But Marcin's takedowns were really good. His ground control was really good. And he just showed really good composure under that boxing pressure, and just continued to work his game and he really just impressed me throughout the whole fight, and it was really one to watch. It was good viewing. For heavyweights, sometimes you can get a little bit of a slugfest for one round and then the pace tapers off to a bore. This wasn't the case. They both showed really good technical know-how throughout the whole match, and this guy from Poland, you're going to be seeing him again. I think he's going to be making waves in the heavyweight division.
Yeah, I just chucked the fight on now, and I just skipped to the last couple of minutes of it. And the pace is still there. They're going toe to toe. I know Spivak is quite highly thought of. And it sounds like Tybura is just as good from what you said, and even just the pace that they're still going at.
That's what I mean. It was not boring at all. You was always wondering.
There's 2 minutes left of the second round, and this. They're both going first, just gone to the
Honestly,
ground.
the prelims were full of really good matches, and
I think there was only one fight on the whole card, prelims and main card, which went to a decision.
Yeah,
which is very, it's unusual, but that's what you want as well in some ways. Is fights to be decided.
And like I say, if you don't mind us talking about some of the prelims, there was another one that you have to watch, which was really impressive, and I was a little surprised at the end because that Ismail Nurdiev against that Sean Brady. And that Ismail, he's been looking devastating. He's really been looking good, and he did in the first round. It looked like he was beginning to just stamp a little bit of authority, and Sean Brady looked a little bit like he was a little bit more shy to stay in the pocket and was having to fight on the outer fringes. But he never looked like he was in panic mode at all. And then in round two, he managed to work one of his takedowns that he kept attempting in the first round, but Ismail was a little bit too fresh and too savvy. But once he did get him to the ground, he kind of started tiring him out and started really dominating him. And then Ismail had no answers to the smothering groundwork, and that Sean Brady was super impressive, really composed throughout, never did anything crazy. There was a couple of times where he was I had opportunity to jump to the back where they was up against the fence, and Ismail was stooped forward, and he went to put the second hook in and very quickly disengaged when the balance fell off. He just made really good decisions, and the difference between, say, Sean Brady and Tom Breeze was that Tom Breeze would go ahead and jump those hooks in and maybe show a little bit too much desperateness to win outright rather than just to settle and win the round. This guy was just happy to settle and win the rounds. Definitely one to look out for, this Sean Brady.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch the full prelims tonight. I should probably watch it after we've done this, actually. And
yeah. Honestly, all of them are worth a watch. They really are. They're great viewing. They wouldn't have been out of place on the main card. And just to throw another one out there, look at the fight with that Spike Carlisle and Arlon Cruz. I mean, Arlon Cruz is huge at featherweight at 6 foot, a real big guy, and that Arlon just 5'8". So you see a real bit, but that one's a real good fight. I don't know whether you want me to spoil you with what happens, but
no, go on, you go.
Yeah. That's but really unusual demeanor about him. The way he was, warming himself up before, as he's having his record read out. It's clearly a guy of different proportions with regards to his character.
Charismatic.
But he was just so effective. He was like a kung fu guy in there, and landed a devastating head kick and got the knockout. And once he rocked him, he was just on him. Just really good, nice short fight, really good viewing, and kind of curious to see how he's going to do in the future. And it's good to have such a different character from the norm.
Watching him do the call, they announce him. He's doing all sorts of dances and
really strange demeanor. He's a southpaw, doesn't stand toe to toe. He's zigzagging left and right, looking for his opportunity, but so relaxed, but in a drunken boxing kung fu style. It's really unusual, but he proved effective, and I'm kind of curious to see whether this is something that he's got as a skill about himself, or whether this was just by not getting lucky, because I don't believe in luck, but just getting his chance that come and it went in his favor. But he looked good. He looked different.
I'm just watching the end of it. He's thrown some weird punches. They're like all from all angles, but he's like, it's effective.
Yeah, if you have a look what led to the finish, it was really good. He basically did like a hammer elbow, like a hammer down elbow. Really interesting the way he chose that shot that led to find a way. He even did a double fist punch to either side of the head in mount.
Yeah.
So creative. It's creative.
Now where he's against the cage. Oh,
yeah.
And he nailed him with a massive elbow in the back of the like on the top of the forehead. And he's kind of just doing these weird like flailing punches to both sides of the head. And then just before the stoppage, he does like you say, a double punch where he punches him to both sides of the head at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, stuff you don't see
in a video game. That is.
I mean, this guy
MMA cage.
Yeah, he's thinking out the box, and you need that a little bit, because although MMA is still evolving at some, in some form or fashion, it is kind of, we see a set pattern of things with certain style fighters, but this guy was doing stuff a little bit out of the box. I think he'd be catching a few people out because of the way he goes about his fights. It's great.
Well, if nothing else, Danny, he'll be exceptionally entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, can't wait to see him again. But I mean, I won't go bang on about all the prelims, but every one of the prelims were really good viewing, and wouldn't have been out of place on the main card in terms of their entertainment. Really good. Because I know a lot of people would just go straight to the main, the main event card, but you really should take the opportunity to see the prelims, because you start seeing the potential talent that's going to come up through, and there is some real talent coming up through. It's always exciting to watch the prelims.
There's a lot of talent coming up in the UFC at the moment. Okay, so we're going to finish off now. We've got a couple of questions, and we're also going to make our predictions, which is going to be like a new segment to our show where we're going to predict the fights of the next show. We're going to cover.
I'm really guilty of going with my heart rather than my mind with these.
So next week, UFC 248. So we are going to predict. I am Sai, and that is Danny Batten, former Cage Warriors champion. So when you total up who gets the most predictions correct, remember that I am host Podcast Nation, and Danny Batten is MMA coach at BST Academy, and also former Cage Warriors champion, UK MMA legend. And just remember that when we go through the predictions and the results next week. Okay. So, I'm only playing then, obviously.
Yeah.
We've got Alex Oliveira. Oliveira.
Yeah.
Who versus Max Griffin.
Yeah. I'm going to go for Alex Oliveira for this one.
I am going to go with Max Griffin.
Oh. I'm going to write this down so I remember as well
Yeah, I'm
what you
making a
said.
note. So I'm gonna go with.
So you're going to go there.
Max Griffin there.
So we've gone opposites on that one.
Yep. So let's have a look. Next up is Neil Magny versus Li Jing Lang.
Yeah, I'm going to go Li Jing Lang for this one.
See, I was going to go with.
That's a hard one. It's a hard one, though.
It's a tricky one. So, do you know what? I'll go with Neil Magny.
Okay.
Just for the competition. But it was hard when I was umming and ahhing with that one.
It's so hard. It's so hard. In fact, all of them I found really difficult to pick between. It was really not easy.
We can see who gets the most points next week. Then, can't we? So you've gone for Li Jing Lang. I've gone for Neil Mag. Next up, we've got Benil Dariush versus Dracul Close.
Yeah, I'm going to go Draco Close on this one. I think he's going to be nailing a knockout.
So you've gone for Draco Closer. I'm going to go for. Yeah, I'm going to go for the experience of Benil Dariush. For that one, I think I've changed my mind on that. So I'm going to go for Benil. Next up is Shang Huaili and versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
Yeah, I mean, I want for Joanna to get back on track and stuff, but I can't bet against Zahan Walili. Yeah, she's just got too many tools to win. So I'm gonna have to say that she's gonna do this one.
Yeah. I'm the same, so I'm going for Zhang as well.
Yeah,
I'm not even going to bet against her for the competition. She's the real deal. And then obviously the main event is Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero.
No, this is I mean, I'm more of a fan of Yoel Romero, so I'm going to go with my heart rather than my head. I mean, the fact that Adesanya is 18-0, isn't he? Now, I mean, it makes you wonder, but I think the fact that Yoel Romero's got that, he comes up with the unknown strikes in the moment, the spinning back fists, he'll do a lead heel kick and he'll do that running jumping knee that will probably break a world record for a high jump. You know, the fact that he's such a genetic freak, he could pull something completely out of the bag that Adesanya will not expect and maybe set off a process to finish. So for that fact, I'm going to go Yoel Romero.
Here we go. So we've got our predictions down for next week's UFC 248 main card. I've made a note of them, and we'll compare the results next week. Okay. So
I've never done good at these, you know.
I'm not very good at them either. I don't worry too much about that. And to finish off, we'll just do a couple of questions which we had sent in. If you guys have any questions you want to send in for Danny Batten, you can, whether they're boxing, MMA related, any combat sports, whether they're technical or just about who we think so-and-so should fight or whatever it may be. If it's technical, I would suggest that we send them to Danny, but anything else, I'm always happy to discuss. You can send them to Twitter and Instagram at ACEcast_nation or Facebook.com/ACEcastNation. Or, of course, you can go old school and email acenetworkcontact@gmail.com. And you send the questions, we'll answer them. So, first question. It says, just finished watching UFC Norfolk. Great show. The ref not stopping the co-main event earlier was cringeworthy, but does the early stoppage in the Magomed fight cause issues for fighters adopting a rope-a-dope strategy?
Well, I kind of did answer this a little bit earlier. To me, a true form of a rope-a-dope is to simulate not so much being hurt, but more being tired and going on the back foot to draw them onto you. I think you're always at risk, and would be an absolute dodgy strategy to ever simulate that you're hurt and going up against a rope or going up against the cage. Of course, you're going to put yourself at risk
Yeah.
for the referee, especially with the way safety is going, and there's so much attention about that, the brain damage you can receive in sports, including football, with headering a ball. So yeah, I don't think it would not be a clever strategy to adopt rope-a-dope in terms of being hurt, but rope-a-dope in terms of, oh, I'm fatigued, I'm going to step back, and I'm not going to be coming back at you, to let them open up so you can crack them with a shot. That's all part of the trickery and the game, and the potential skill within a potential round and fight.
Yes.
And with stoppages, I'd rather see an early one than I would a late one. I think late ones are really ugly and really does stain a referee's rep.
Yeah,
and he
do
probably
agree
would lose
with
his license if there's a fatality or
yeah, of course.
yes, something hugely consequential.
I agree with Johnny actually there. I did feel that co-main event tonight was a little bit cringe-worthy towards the end. She was just, because she wasn't protecting herself, and she wasn't doing anything. Like, if she was still moving to try and get out of the mount, then I'd have been all right with it. But she wasn't.
Yeah.
She was just laid there being punched in the head and elbowed.
Yeah.
It's the elbows as well. The elbows, some of those elbows were sick. So to me, I can see what he's saying there, certainly.
Yeah. And the only thing I could suggest that the ref was seeing, he obviously thought they were glancing blows because there was no visual damage being done. That's the only sort of like excuse for the guy.
I think that's a dodgy kind of.
Because really it's the damage of the brain.
Yeah.
That's
not what we're worried. We're not worried about gashes.
Of course not. But I'm trying to be devil's advocate and try to think, why would this ref let it go on? I can only but presume that we all judge things differently. He must have thought that some of those shots were glancing and not concussive in any way. And maybe it was because there was no visual damage that maybe made him judge to let it go on a little. But by my reckoning, your reckoning, and probably most of the audience, that we all feel that went on too long. But refs are, they're human. They make mistakes. Generally, that ref makes good decisions. That one was not one. But no one was hurt.
No,
there's no damage done, luckily. Let's just hope that we don't see this very often, if not all.
No. And lastly, Peaches asks, out of Georgian Vucinic, Oban Elliott, and Paddy the Baddy Pimblett, who will be the first to go to the UFC, and B, who is the most likely to become a UFC champion?
Okay.
And why?
Well, the person who's going to stand the chance of being there first would have to be Paddy, because he's been in it so much longer. He has more fights, many more years experience. So if anyone's going to be making it sooner than the other, it will be him. Oban Elliott's hugely inexperienced still at the minute. He's like, I think we looked at his record, wasn't it, 3-0. It's obviously full of talent, but at this stage, to be able to judge how good he can potentially be, whether he can go the whole way, we have to see him under pressure, and we have to see how he performs with a title shot. So it's just too soon to say for him, and a little bit for Jordan. As I know Jordan's my very own fighter. It's hard to know how much potential they can fulfill. I can tell you more about Jordan because I experienced training with him day in, day out. The kid is an absolute talent. He's got a God-given body, not just for looks that he seems to want to paint all over with his tattoos, but he's got a great physique, very, very similar to
me.
He's got very, very similar body proportions to Conor McGregor. Very wide shoulders, slim waist, genetically very strong for his weight, very, very quick, very, very sharp, and committed to training. he didn't turn up. We sort of laugh and joke a little bit. When he turned up for training after Valentine's Day, I said to him that I won a £50 bet that he wouldn't turn up that day, because he's always at training. And if he ain't at our gym, he trains at another gym, which I always encourage. He's got another gym that he trains and to get some more of his striking format from, as well as ours, which I think is all great. So I did have a little play dig at him, but I said to him, look, in all honesty, no, I'm not disappointed you didn't turn up. If a day at all, I don't mind Valentine's Day, because the rest of the time he's in the gym all the time, and you know what, it's always asking me questions, and we always debate about certain techniques and strategies. Not afraid to question my choices on and decisions on what I think is right in any particular circumstance. So we negotiate very, very well, and he's never really far off the mark of what I think, and vice versa. So we dance along very nicely together. He's got many of the attributes that are needed to go all the way, not just for Cage Warriors champion, but also to become a UFC potential champion. But of course, this is all in hindsight, and the only way we're going to know is by getting it all on. But for the enjoyment of trying to forecast and look ahead, Jordan's one of the special ones. He really could make it. Intelligent, honest, down to earth, realistic character. I'm excited to see his career unfolding. Still so young, so young.
Yeah, I actually spoke to him earlier on, which was interesting. But you'll have to wait and see what I spoke to him about and what for.
Right.
Obviously, Oban, I'm a bit more familiar with in terms of, like, he's from Wales, and I've had him on the show. I've spoken to him, and I've checked out some of his stuff ahead of speaking to him.
He had quite an extensive amateur career, didn't he?
He's on a 10-fight win streak if you include his
amateurs
as well. Amateurs, he's never lost. Which obviously is impressive in any whether amateur or pro.
Absolutely.
He all I could tell you is he's very, very highly thought of in Wales. And obviously you've got Jack Shaw, who is from the same gym, who's already in the UFC and is very, very highly thought of within the UFC. But I know Oban is particularly highly thought of. I don't want to say more so than Jack, because obviously Jack's already in the UFC. But I believe that the BBC made a documentary about Oban, which is out on the 2nd of March on BBC Two at 11:15, which will be a good one for for MMA fans to watch, particularly for Welsh fans, I suppose. But it's so early, isn't it? He's early into his career. He's not short of confidence. When I spoke to him during the podcast, he was adamant that by the end of this year, he'll be champion in Cage Warriors. So there's no doubt that he believes.
And just the fact that Jack Shaw's in it gives him more chance than any, because his camp has already broken the seal in terms of getting to UFC, which is kind of, I'm hoping that's the case with our gym as well. I think once you get someone
Brett Johns, Jack Shaw, John Phillips, Jack Marshman, and Oban, and a couple of others, Lewis Long and Bellator, they all train together.
I mean, you've got a right,
which is obviously a high level. And I know there's a couple of young boys coming through as well who are like 16, 17 at the moment, who they again highly thought of. But with any sporting career, that age from 17, 18 to early 20s, so much can change, and I think even more so in fighting, isn't it? You're one bad injury away from a career being over in sport. You just never know. And obviously when you're unbeaten like Jack Shaw or like Oban Elliott, is that when you do finally lose, it's how you come back from it. Like Cody Davis, the Welsh boxer who we discussed last week, was unbeaten. Everyone had been saying, he's future world champion. Probably still is, but he's now got to deal with something completely different because he's lost for the first time. And it's how he comes back from that and how he reacts to that. And sometimes unbeaten fighters, when they first lose, they don't come back from it.
Yeah.
Some get back on the horse, and some come back in and they go back to, being dominant.
We've yet to see that with Owen Elliott, being so young into his and so fresh into his pro career, but never lost as an amateur either. So, if he does face some kind of adversity in terms of his results, how well does he come back from that? And let's not leave Paddy out of this. Paddy had time out in the end. He fell out of love with MMA for a little while. Is that something that can happen again? I mean, even if he gets to UFC, is he suddenly just going to want to hang it up again for a while or permanently? We just don't know. That always makes me question how much they're really in it if they're willing to turn their back on it for any kind of period, really, to be honest. So, who knows? Although, as you know, I've always been a fan of Paddy and always, look with interest at what's happening with his career. But, he did go off the scene for a little bit and was not silent about the fact that he was a little out of love with MMA for a little while. So, as long as he stays focused and he stays interested, he certainly could have a few. He's certainly got the talent to and the character to.
Well, I think the thing with Paddy as well is that if it wasn't for that injury, which I think was a big reason behind why he had that period away, he'd probably already be in the UFC because he was on the brink of signing after the fight, which he lost because of this injury. And then obviously he went away and he had time away, and he's coming back now in the big Cage Warriors show coming up.
That's right.
So, Oban's fighting. I think it's next week or maybe the week after. Unfortunately, it's not on. It's because he's main event in the Cage Warriors show in Wales. But I believe it's a Cage Warriors Academy show, which means it's not on BT Sport or not being streamed, which is a real shame.
I think is this not? Is this like where they do it in quite a closed?
Yeah, it's like quite
arena?
Small.
That's where Tom Mann's fought on it. It's actually quite a nice atmosphere to do it like that. But it's like you can focus and concentrate more weirdly because it's a little bit more quiet and it was different. But
do you know what? Because BT have got the deal with Cage Warriors, haven't they? Where they show the big Cage Warriors shows. They should have these academy shows around the UK. They should have them on like the BT app or like on the BT website or something like that.
Yeah.
Because for MMA fans, people want, big MMA fans, they want to watch the next batch of superstars.
Yep.
They want to watch those shows to see, who should I look out for, or people from their area or whatever it may be. So I think I find that really frustrating because I'd really like to watch, Oban's fight, having had him on the podcast, having spoken to his teammates and stuff like that, and spoken to him. So I'm a bit disappointed that it's not on TV, and I can't. And where it is a bit too far away for me to go on a Saturday night because of my own health. So it's like, but we got some big stuff coming up. Obviously, I believe Jordan will be fighting at some point soon. Paddy's fighting on the big UFC, big Cage Warriors. I think it's Cage Warriors Manchester. Which I think is in March. We got UFC London. I had an idea, which I got to float to you about UFC London. I mean, I suppose I could just float it to you now, I suppose. So I was thinking, because UFC London will be on a Saturday night, but it'll be at a decent time, I'm assuming. So how would you feel about doing like a watch along? So instead of doing the podcast on that show on the Sunday, or instead of having it on, instead of having that as part of our show on the Sunday, we'd watch it as it goes on live, and we discuss it like we do normally, but we just react to it as it's live, as it's going on. Would you be interested?
Absolutely.
So basically, we'd have it on our TVs or whatever. We'd turn the sound down so we don't get taken off. We'd do this, but it would be live. We'd sort of talk about what's going on the screen, and people would get our reactions to,
I think that's a good idea.
Submissions. think it's something different, isn't it? Something we could
Yeah,
do.
it'll be nice not to have to write loads of notes down all the time.
Yeah, that's
just,
it. Yeah, and I just thought it's something different. Isn't it? It's
yeah, definitely.
And if it
I
goes
like the sound of
well,
that.
obviously when like there's a Cage Warriors show on a Saturday night, if you haven't got any fighters or whatever, maybe that's something that we can look to with that as well.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. So I would like the idea of that experience. That'd be good.
The only problem is there'll most likely be a UFC show later in the night, and we'll still have to do the podcast on a Sunday. But
probably so.
see,
But hey,
you'll
we'll
have
do
to
it.
do double.
We've proved that we can get through a number of
no
shows,
problem.
and with with the boxing as well that we did. I think we can do it. If we can do
Yeah.
that night, we can do any night.
Well, yeah, and last week's show was the most downloaded Danny Batten show since we got started, which was
Good stuff.
It's growing exponentially each week. And we had a good reaction to the boxing, the Tyson Fury breakdown and stuff. I had an email of a guy who said like he was impressed by the knowledge and the breakdown that we both provided. He was keen to say both as well, not just yourself, who's obviously you're the combat warrior. But he said like he was not sure what our boxing, knowledge would be because we predominantly talked about MMA previously. But he said he was really impressed and he enjoyed it. He said it was a bit long for him in the end, so he didn't listen to all of it. He listened to the boxing and the UFC, and then he left off the Bellator stuff. But I mean, I expect that, particularly when we do like longer shows. But yeah, so I'll look into the logistics of the watch along for UFC London and Cage Warriors.
I'm excited about that.
I'll get back to you. But if that's something, guys, which you'd like to see us do, then obviously let us know. You could check out the BST Academy at bstacademy.co.uk. Visit me on Instagram and Twitter at ACEcast_nation, Facebook.com/ACEcastNation. Andy Campbell Show, live every Monday, 7 o'clock, Facebook.com/AceCastNation, YouTube.com/AcePodcastNation. Join us in the live chat. Teespring store is teespring.com/stores, ace-podcast-nation. And you can get all your latest merchandise, mugs like this, T-shirts and all alike. And for the next 20 days or so, I'm donating my cut to the victims of the Rhondda flooding. It's not a massive cut, but it's a little cut, and I'll be donating 100% of that cut to them. What else have we got? Away Day Apparel. Obviously, the code is you're on for 10% off. Visit them; they got some great stuff going on. And most importantly, guys, share the video, tell your friends, and also drop a comments in the likes, Facebook, and all that good stuff, because that helps us grow. And obviously, the aim is always to find new eyes and new ears for people who don't already listen, and that is the hardest thing to do as a show and as a channel. Danny, thank you for joining me, my friend. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. And apologise to anyone that does, see a little bit of my cleavage on it. I'm in a dressing gown.
It takes a brave man.
It's cold in here.
It takes a brave man to wear a dressing gown on a podcast with video. That's all I'll say.
I wanted to be confident.
Defending champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
I always do that. I press it.